Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass, live and in living color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. Yes, welcome back to another edition of the show where tonight we pay homage to one of the genre's greatest and most beautiful living legends of all time. Yes, I am talking to you guys tonight here about the one, the only Edwige Fenech. Yes, Edwige Fenech, of course, actress spotlight. I'm super excited here tonight on Grande's Graveyard as we discuss not one, not two, but three of her films, of course. Here we will be discussing this one right here, $5 for an August Moon. Of course, All the Colors of the Dark, and The Case of the Bloody Iris. So we got three Gialli, all with 6-word titles, all with the same beautiful actress, Edwige Fenech, and we're only on Grande's Graveyard. So I'm very excited to have you all in the house here tonight to pay homage to a living legend in Edwige, and I'm super happy to have you in the house. So let's see what the chat has to say. We have Miss C is here. Ciao, Grande and Graveyardian friends. Miss C, hope all's well with you. Happy almost Valentine's Day. Yeah, no, I was calling this the Valentine's Day Actress Spotlight Special because it's close enough. One of these movies we'll be discussing actually was released on Valentine's Day, and two of them were released in, I actually think all three of these movies were released in February, so it kind of works. It's not Valentine's Day horror, but all these movies were released around February and around the same time, so I was like, you know what, why the hell not? We have the Soulless Trenchcoat, Trenchy, Bradley, what's going on? Hey, what's up, man? Dude, hope all is well with you. Hope you're doing good. We got Anthony Chobut. Hey, buddy, how you doing? By the way, just talked to a publication. That's cool. People saying hi to one another. We got D.A. Donovan Alba in the house. What up, Grande? What up, Donovan? Donovan's my guy, dude. Mateo Appendino is here. Ciao, Grande. Long live Edwige. For me, a goddess, acting-wise, she was great in All the Colors. Hi to the whole graveyard. Yes, me and Mateo have been talking Edwige movies all week long on our chat, and I was super excited to do this. And Mateo was the one that said, hey, Edwige was more known for her romantic comedies. And I said, you know what? I had an extra night of show prep, and I decided I downloaded one of her romantic comedies, which was called Poker in Bed. And then Mateo told me the Italian title, which definitely got a little steamy, but I don't know. It's funny. You know what? I don't know if you knew this, Mateo, because I didn't realize when I was talking to you. It is actually Poker in Bed is from the same director as this movie, same directors. So they must have liked working together because they did work together again just a couple years down the road. And of course, we'll talk about all three of these movies I just mentioned tonight. We got acres of movies in the house. I love her. Absolutely. Edwige is a living legend. Hello and thanks, Stacy. Is The Seducers one of the best for you? The Seducers. I'm not familiar with that one. I don't know. But everybody, I'm super happy to have you all in the house here tonight. So everybody, cheers to a safe, happy, healthy weekend, to Valentine's Day if you're celebrating with your significant other, because we got 3 February Gialli, we've got Edwige Fenech, and we got absolutely no regrets here tonight, only on Grande's Graveyard. So cheers, everybody. Oh, man, only the good stuff. So I figure let's start this show off hot, right? Let's start this show off steaming hot. And when we're talking steaming hot, we look no further than the woman of the hour, the one with the power, the woman too sweet to be sour, the cat's pajamas and the bee's knees, the goddamn best living legend of Italian Gialli. I'm talking about Edwige Fenech. So very excited here tonight. And we're going to start this show off hot, like I said, with the first movie here from the year 1970, a movie that will actually celebrate its 55th birthday tomorrow. Tomorrow is the release date in Italy for this movie. Was released 55 years ago tomorrow. So that's absolutely wild. So happy early birthday to this movie. Happy early 55th to a movie where the Italian title translates to Five Bambole per la Luna de Agosto, a.k.a. in Inglés, $5 for an August moon. Yes, $5 for an August moon. Brief plot synopsis. An industrialist invites his colleagues to a private island so they can exploit a resin formula invented by one of the guests. But a killer within the group disrupts the proceedings. Yes, $5 for an August moon. Now, this is a controversial movie. And of course, it's a part of the Mario Bava collection. This was a Mario Bava film that has been kind of marred in controversy ever since it came out. Now, people don't know the backstory. If you don't know the backstory, basically this was a situation where Mario Bava was much a director for hire. They initially had a director in mind. They had the script written. Everything was getting ready to take place. But what happened was the original director, Guido Malatesta, he backed out. And the reason for why has never really been said. Now, I think he was sick at the time, because if you look, he would have backed out in like mid to late 1969, and he passed away in about mid 1970. So I'm going to assume that it was a situation of health concern, and he felt that he wasn't up to directing a movie. And let's face it, I mean, you really have to bring your A game when you're directing a film, and you really have to be energetic and up and lively. And it doesn't seem like Mr. Malatesta was at this time. So he leaves the production just 2 days prior to them starting to film. And of course, who else do the producers call than one Mario Bava? Of course, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers, the all-time greatest cinematographer. I don't even think that's up for a debate. I mean, if it's not Black Sunday, if it's not Black Sabbath, if it's not Blood and Black Lace, then it's movies like Bay of Blood, then it's movies like Kill Baby Kill, Planet of the Vampires, so many awesome movies, Rabid Dogs, that Mario Bava directed in his career. And this has always been considered to be, by most of his fans and the late man himself, Mario Bava, considered this to be his weakest film. And of course, that's where the controversy is more. And I understand the situation before we get into the movie itself, where Mario was contacted 2 days before filming. Mario saw the script, read the script, didn't like the script, made it abundantly clear, hey, let me work on this script. I don't like it. It's a mess. Like, let me work on this and we'll do it. And they said, listen, we start in 2 days, buddy. Like, you're in or you're out. And their big promise was, we'll pay you right now. We'll pay you up front. We'll pay you everything we owe you right now on this Saturday, as long as you're there Monday morning to start directing film. And Mario, I guess they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. I don't know what they offered him to make this movie, but Mario took the paycheck. Mario took the job, and hence we get $5 for an August Moon, which, if you heard the plot synopsis I said before, it's very reminiscent of a little Agatha Christie story, And Then There Were None, which I see Slasher Fred has already beaten me to the punch there, but it's basically an Italian version of that old Agatha Christie story. And Then There Were None, where, of course, that's like one of the best-selling murder mystery novels of all time. I actually think it's the number one selling murder mystery novel of all time. It's like one of the original whodunits, and I believe it came out in like the I think 1940 was the original novel, and this is kind of a knock on it. Now, Agatha Christie is not credited in the credits or anything, but that's basically what this is. It's an Italian version of And Then There Were None. And there were tons of adaptations. There were German adaptations, British adaptations, American adaptations. So many people took that story and tried to modernize it into whatever time period they were going for. And this is Mario Bava's shot. This is the Italy spin on that same old, story of the 10. I know that there's going by a bunch of names, but of course in this, instead of 10, we get $5, 5 women for an August Moon. But there are 10 characters. And we're introduced to all of these snobby rich people around this mansion on an island. And all of these people are just these snobby, awful, disgusting liars and cheaters and sneaks. And we open up basically with our lady of the hour, Miss Edwige Fenech, doing a beautiful dance in a gold top and pants, just dancing with one of these guys and having a good old time. It's extremely amazing in the way it captures its era. It's one of these films that, to me, it's so of its era that it's like, and it's in a very good way. It's in the best of way of its era. It's a very 1970 film. It just has that feel, look, vibe, the clothing, the aesthetic, all that stuff. And I, for one, I love that. I mean, I would love a time machine to go back 55 years tomorrow and see this in the theater on opening night. I mean, that would be a really cool thing for me. We're introduced to all these characters, and now some of them you will recognize. I mean, if you've seen enough Italian films, you will recognize them. Of course, Edwige is the standout, but some other people may recognize Princess Ira von Furstenberg. I always fuck up that name. She was, of course, royalty. She was actually a princess who, I guess, had a slight career at acting, and then I know she married super young. Like, she married at like 15 years old. She was a princess. So I mean, fuck, that's that's never okay. But that was her life, and she wanted to have her hand in acting, and she gets the lead here. The initial plan that Mario wanted to do was to have Edwige be the lead. And then, of course, the producer said, no, we got a princess. Princesses come over Edwige. So they push Edwige more to the sexual, uber sexy character that's seducing these people. And I mean, I'm not complaining here at all. I mean, I think it was a good casting. It's actually a good side character for one Edwige to play. And then, of course, Ira plays this lead woman. And then, of course, we're introduced to all these snobby billionaires that are smoking and kind of being snobby and whatnot. And we get the discussion of this industrial resin that one of the professors has created. They're all offering him this money from their pocket. I'll give you $1 million out of my pocket. Here's a check for $2 million. At one point, the husband of Edwige's character, he says, hey, you got to try to seduce this guy so we can get this industrial resin so we can profit and capitalize and be billionaires. We are millionaires, but we want to be billionaires. It's all, of course, the themes of greed, which if you're a stranger to Gialli, I mean, that's always usually the main plot moving thing, right? It's the main plot vehicle is greed and the desire for gaining money. And that's of course, that's right here. If you've seen Blood and Black Lace, it's right there. Movies like Orgasmo. There's so many Gialli with, greed is the main driving force. But of course, we're isolated on this island. Edwige is sleeping with one of the houseboys, if you will. They're having this hot, steamy sex inside the boat cabana. And then one night, that same guy that she's been having sex with turns up dead. And we, of course, have all of these characters in a room, and it's a classic from there. Who done it? Who killed the houseboy, the pool boy, whatever boy you want to call him? Who killed them and why? And then, of course, one by one, our characters are picked off, and then we have to try to figure out who is the killer before there's nobody left. Call me crazy, call me cliche, call me whatever you want to call me. I've always loved that particular storytelling. Like, I've always liked that idea. And of course, if you're a slasher film fan, if you're a fan of wrestling in a Royal Rumble, like the idea of eliminating people one by one until there's one more standing. I've always been a sucker for that idea. I love a classic whodunit, a classic pick them off one by one. I love slasher movies. I always have liked that kind of trope. And this is Mario's attempt at that trope. And I thought that he did such a good job here with the direction, and not only the direction, the cinematography. There's a lot of interesting zooms and pullouts, and oh my God, just some amazing camera work in this movie, which, of course, I always say he's the best cinematographer to ever do it. There's also, this movie's edited by Mario Bava. Mario Bava is the only time in his career ever where he went to the editor's room and he edited this film together. So I always thought that was a really interesting, unique thing about this. The movie looks fantastic. I do hope one day this gets a re-release in 4K. I think the movie looks stunning, and I think it could even look better if they still have a print of this movie somewhere, if they still have an original camera negative of it. I mean, I would absolutely love that. I really think that would be fantastic. But I like some of the gimmicks this movie has to portray as well. Now, there's some interesting things where, we don't get the classic on-screen kills that you're so used to seeing in most Gialli, most slasher films. There's no on-screen kills in this movie. Everything is done off-screen, and that was a stylistic choice from Bava because he really wanted there to be no way for you to be able to guess who the killer is going to be. So all the kills are off screen, and every time someone's picked off, the characters that are alive, they take the dead bodies and they're putting them in this freezer. And every time that happens, we get this amazing musical score from, I got to say it, Matteo, I got to do it with a little bit of Italian. That's Piero Umiliani. Yes, Piero Umiliani. He does the music here. Man, he knocks this score out of the park. I love his score in this, as you get this kind of piano, jazzy, weird concoction as each of the bodies are being stuffed in this freezer. You get this bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. I love that. I think that every time it really, it as it goes on, you start to laugh. I truly think it may have been black humor, like a lampoon or a parody of like this type of movie where you see each of the bodies showing up in the freezer. And at first it's horrific, but as it goes on, as they keep playing that music, I mean, I can't help but burst out laughing. I'm like, that is so, what a funny choice to keep playing that same score and like harking in on it when these people are dying one by one. Um, Now, you will get to the only thing about this movie that it really does let me down, and I actually would agree with one Mario Bava. The script is weak. It is a weak script. You don't get enough time with some of these people to even consider them as red herrings, right? You have, some interesting scenes. Of course, we have Edwige in a shower, and her husband is saying, "Hey, why are you in the shower?" And she goes, "Well, you say I'm a dirty whore. I figure if I do this, I'll be a clean whore." Like, that's one of the lines in this. And she comes out and he goes, "Well, hey, I'm kind of upset you're fucking the houseboy." And she's like, "Well, why? Why are you upset I'm fucking the houseboy?" He goes, "Well, look, all the other guys, you can get money off them. You can picking the one guy that's broke." That was like laughing my ass off at that. I thought that was really funny. You have some interesting scenes where one guy is offered, "Hey, I'll give you my wife. I'll offer you my wife if you let me have this, and I'll give you $5 million too." You see how all scummy and disgusting and deceitful all of these men are. They're just terrible, terrible people. And I liked the visuals of how they were being picked off one by one, even if they were off screen. It does work for this movie. There's a very interesting scene where there's a woman, she goes to take a bath. And we cut away from her, and when we cut back, there's 2 pools of blood. Her wrists are cut, and there's lipstick writing on the mirror saying, "I'm sorry, I couldn't bear this anymore. I'm too afraid." And they want you to think she took her own life. But we know the killer got her, right? If we've seen Blood and Black Lace, you know that she didn't just take her own life. You know what's going on there. I thought that was great. There's an interesting scene where Edwige is looking for someone on the beach. She's going around and around and around, and we cut back and we find the guy. He's knocked out in the house, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? We couldn't find you." And he's like, "Oh, I'm all right, I'm all right." And then when we cut to try to find Edwige, she's been dead. She's been stabbed, and she's like hanging on a tree. Into the freezer you go. Fun, really fun, a really fun whodunit. It has virtually no fat in there. I mean, it's like an 80-minute movie. And that's with credit. I mean, it's really, really short. And part of me wishes that they had let Mario push back pre-production, work on the script to give these characters a little bit more depth. I feel like that is really the biggest sore thumb that this movie has. I really think it could have been an all-time great Bava if they had given him a little more time to work on the script. But as it stands, I still think it's really fun. I still really love the music score. I think everyone does a really good job, as they do a good job of making you suspect, well, who the hell is doing this? Who is committing these murders? As one by one, we count down to, we get to the final 3, where, of course, Ira Furstenberg she's one of the final 3, and she gets this recording machine, and she says, "I'm going to record myself, to prove that it's one of you that are going to kill me, She does that, and then, when everybody kind of comes to, there's this kind of final encounter between her and one of the other men in there, who are both, of course, out to get the microfilm print of this industrial resin thing. It gets a little convoluted towards the end. I'm not going to lie to you, especially the finale where we get to the prison and this other young woman on the island who you may recognize from a Lizard in a Woman's Skin. She's also in that movie. I can get her name here. I believe it was Ellie Galliani. Ellie Galliani. She's like one of the young girls in this movie, and they have her as a red herring throughout it. She ends up being the ultimate winner of this, where she kind of escapes with all the money, and she wasn't even involved in any of this, but she's the ultimate red herring. So, I mean, I don't know. That stuff, the way it ends, it's very, very convoluted, very like, what the fuck? Like, this is uber overcomplicated to get to this point. But I do enjoy the ride to get to that point, if that makes any sense. Really, really fun filmmaking. If you love Mario Bava, if you're a student of him like I am, like a big, big fan, I think this is a must watch. I know he has always put it down as his least favorite movie that he ever did. I would respectfully disagree and say he's done way worse movies than this. I really would. But I understand why it wouldn't be heralded up there with his best of the best. It's somewhere in the middle for his filmography for me. But man, in my humble opinion, it's a can't miss and must see whodunit / Gialli from 1970, $5 for an August moon. Which again, if you're celebrating Valentine's Day with a loved one tomorrow, it is celebrating its 55th anniversary tomorrow. But let's get to the comments. Let's see what you guys have to say. She's amazing. I visit her at times in Milan, and she also does a movie cinema convention in Sicily every couple of years. That would be so cool to meet her. Grant, I'm sure she probably only speaks Italian. But hey, maybe that's Matteo. I'll bring Matteo and you can translate for me, or I could just, write. I think all these titles, that's the cool thing about giallos, it's like, or Gialli, I should say, the titles of some of these are just the best titles. I love these titles. Like all titles we're talking about tonight have 6 words in the title, right? And this is right before The Bird with the Crystal Plumage comes out, and then every single giallo after that was trying to integrate an animal in there in some way, shape, or form. Black Belly of the Tarantula, The Cat o' Nine Tails, Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Don't Torture a Duckling. All of these movies that decided, hey, Bird with Crystal Plumage was really successful. Let's get an animal in our title and go for it. Even Dario himself, the Three Animals trilogy. So this was before that. Of course, the same year, they came out the same year, but this just predated it. And this at the time was looked at as a big disappointment. It didn't release abroad. I don't believe this released in the United States until like the year 2001. I was reading and I was like, that is a fucking travesty. It took this movie 31 years to get a release in the United States. I mean, that's crazy. And this Blu-ray goes for dumb money. I mean, dumb money. If you want to get this Blu-ray, you have to fucking sell your dog or something, man. This is an expensive fucking Blu-ray. And man, I will say I was a little bit let down by it because it doesn't have the Italian mono. It's only in English. So if, you know, obviously I like to watch Italian films in Italian. If you don't like dubbing, you're going to be pissed because this entire movie's dubbed on this release. I know there is an Arrow release from the UK that's region locked. That has the Italian mono and more features because this just says trailers. So that's really the addition to get if you're going to ever get this movie or buy this movie. I would not recommend unloading the cash cow bank, if you will. Don't fucking do that. Even though I love this movie, you could also watch it on Tubi. So you could just do that. She actively produces things for movies and TV and is active in Milan. It is great, and our dog gets along well. She is kind and still is interested to act, but is very selective, not retired. Yeah, no, I saw she's still doing some work. That's really cool. Seems like you know her personally. That's crazy. Fever Dreamland Theater's in the house. Anthony's here. Anthony, I pre-recorded the award nomination for the Rubber Duckies annual show. So everyone stay tuned for that on February the 23rd. Anthony will be there. I will be there, but in a pre-recorded fashion. I'll try to join by the chat. Bellatesta had a death in the family. It was his sister and wife that died in a taxi crash earlier that year. For your information, Grande. Really? Okay. Malatesta. Was that Malatesta? Okay. I'm like, Malatesta. I think that what made the story of And Then There Were None such a very classic story is how it plays on the universal mind of who is the killer and who's going to be the next victim. It's a classic trope. It's been done to death. In literally something about death, about picking people off one by one. It's basically been around since the beginning of time, and it just doesn't get old to me. It doesn't, no matter how many times it's redone, no matter how many countries mock it or imitate it or whatever, it just never gets old. Mearns is in the house. What is up, Graveyard fam? Let's celebrate some Edwige. I'm with you, buddy. Cheers to Edwige, a living legend, if you will. Highly recommend The Seducers to you. That is one of her favorite performances she's done. She's happy with people that like her work, and it lives on YouTube Movie Discussions. The title translation for once is correct. The dance at the beginning is sexy, not the best Bava, but still a Bava. Exactly. Now, I laughed too, because I was curious. I'm like, okay, if people think this is the worst Mario Bava film, I was curious to read other reviews, and I did. Dude, I couldn't believe of a movie that's considered his worst. I mean, I couldn't really find anything that was uber bad. A lot of people were saying if this is his worst, then fuck, his best must be unbelievable. If your worst movie, and I would give this movie a 7.5, even out of 10. If your worst movie is in that ballpark, you're doing something right as a filmmaker. Now, I don't consider this to be his worst. I really, really don't. I think it's actually quite a decent movie. I would say right in the middle of his filmography for me. She also did some great Italian comedies. Yes, absolutely. Matteo was telling me that. She also loved to visit my estate on the Eastern Shores, and I trust her. Wow, this is absolutely wild. You sound like you're like pen pals with this person. Very, very cool. Bunch of stuff. Never seen it. Can't really go wrong with Bava, though. Oh, dude, you can't. You really can't. And it's like, I will say, of these 3 movies, and the reason I started off with this, it is the one that features Edwige the least. Like, she's very much there as a sexual presence, and she's even having sex with the murder that gets the plot and story going, but she's not the lead here. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised in retrospect. I guess maybe in retrospect, the producers would have just had her be the lead. of this movie because, of course, Ira never really, I mean, Ira acted maybe 10 years after this, about another 10 years, then she retires. But I guess the whole, you're a princess, it's royalty. She has some, I didn't think Ira did a bad job in this at all. I thought she was sexy too. I was like, damn, like this lady has a little bit of something. So I totally understand why they went with her as the lead because she had name value. But I understand also at the same time that the producer saw Edwige and said, we need to make this a vehicle for her. We need to make this a vehicle to get her over. And it really wouldn't be until another year or so, and of course, with The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, that's the movie that really propelled her into stardom. And we'll get into all that stuff with Luciano Martino, her marriage to him. Grande, what do you think was her biggest strength as an actress? I've never heard of her at all. I said so. I'm interested to hear why you're drawn to her work. Okay. In my opinion, her biggest draw is absolutely, and you can't deny this, even if you, I don't know, I can't see anyone denying me saying this. If you disagree, disagree. But her biggest draw is her beauty. There's no doubt she has a beauty to her. And I think that sometimes gets jumbled with, oh, you're just a beautiful woman. You're not a great talent. You know, a lot of people look at it that way. They go, oh, she's just a beauty. Like think about it. Think of a lot of sex symbols, right? Pamela Anderson, sex symbol of the United States. Has anyone ever really considered Pam Anderson's a great actress? Now I know she's up for some awards or something. I think she's up for an Emmy or something now. But I'm talking about the Baywatch era, Pam Anderson running on the beach with giant yits running around the yard. That was her aura. That was Pamela Anderson. That's how it was sold, right? She wasn't this outstanding actress, but she never really also got the chance to show what she had in the tank. Edwige, on the other hand, thankfully, got her chance to do all these sorts of movies. She did dramas. She did romantic comedies. She got to show off her acting chops of, can you make me laugh? Can you make me smile? And I watched Poker in Bed this week, and I thought she was absolutely funny in it. I thought she was hilarious. She was the best thing in an otherwise lackluster, poor film. And then, of course, when we get to this movie, she showed her dramatic side. She showed that she can not only act terrified, but she can act truly traumatized, afraid, and I guess kind of worn down woman by the things that are going on in All the Colors of the Dark. I think she had a lot of range that a lot of people don't give her credit for. And even she herself has said, listen, we couldn't sell my films without me getting naked at some point or another. I wanted to limit the sex scenes. I wanted to limit the shower scenes, but that sold my films. And of course, if you're selling tickets and putting asses in the seat, that is all that truly matters, man. It's a business at the end of the day. I hate it. I hate businesses. I love the show. I hate the business, right? That's the old Gene Wilder quote. I am that way, but that's what sold it for her. And also, I think her best, it helped, was the marriage she had with Luciano Martino, of course, then making films with guys like Sergio Martino, making films, with all these like little bit more capable directors as she was working for prior to 1970, right? Of course, she did work Bava here. That's really, really cool that Bava and Edwige worked with one another. But it's a situation where it wasn't until like the following year where, boom, that kind of just propelled her into, you're a leading lady. You're a movie star. And that's why I like her so much. Why was I so drawn to her work? I am a big fan of Gialli in general. I'm a huge Giallo cinema fan. I just love that era of the genre. I'm just a huge fan of it. I love, a lot of the filmmakers that were coming around the pike at that time, whether it be Dario, whether it be Lucio, whether it be Mario, whether it be, guys like Umberto Lenzi, guys like Sergio Martino, all these guys that were coming around the pike at that time and kind of trying to one-up each other and who could do the best Giallo film. I'm just attracted to that era, and she's a big part of it, right? I mean, Matteo said to me, and I agree with him, that Florinda Balkan is probably the queen of the Giallo, but I mean, if there's a number two, I would say it has to be Edwige. I mean, how many great Gialli with her in it are there? Susie Kendall's up there. Christina Galbo would be up there for me. I know some people might like, and I get, Daria Nicolodi, Asia Argento, some of these women that were not only beautiful, but could really, really work and act too. One of her best movies that launched her modern comedies in Italy of all of the time was Ubalda, All Naked and Warm. I highly recommend. Okay. And Then There Were None is a great movie. Bit of a cheat since the killer is killed in the middle of the flick. Exactly, yes. That happens in this movie. And they do it like it's a really convoluted way. Like, so what they do here, spoilers. But I swear to you, this is a movie that if you watch it, I don't even know if you'll understand it because it's so out of left field when they get to the shit with this. So the guy that has invented the resin gets killed in the middle of the movie. He gets shot in the head, apparently, even though he wasn't killed at all. It's all set up between him and this young teenage girl that lives on the island to have everybody else pick each other off. That's what happens. And then, of course, at the end of the movie, because he got shot with this, whatever gun she used, it was like an animal tranquilizer, he decided to tell the truth to the authorities and admitted to doing it all. He killed his partner for the industrial resin. He set everybody up, and he's going to be set to hang. And that's why he gets, and then she kind of comes and visits him and says, "Oh, I'm sorry about this, but can I have the bank account number? I need $1 million now." And that's how the movie ends. I mean, you're like, what the fuck? Like, the first time I saw this, I was like, wait, what? Like, I immediately was like, what did I fucking miss? It's out there, man. It really, really is. Less exaggerating on the vowels and extra syllables, but close. Okay, well. A gabagool to you, sir. Well, gabagool. Gory, seen it all. For a glimpse of Edwige Fenech comedy, The Photogenic is a great one. Wow, okay, big Edwige Fenech fan. Sorry, sometimes if I say it too quick, it comes out my New York shows. Give me the go-ahead. I'll translate, no problem. She also speaks French for your information. Hell yeah, man, let's do it. Have you seen House with the Laughing Windows? Dude, I not only seen it, I know it's getting a 4K from Arrow, and I know Mateo is like that movie's biggest fan, so I'm super stoked for him. Her great roles in many gialli and thrillers and modern noir, also comedies, which are her largest hits in Italy. Some of them are great. I hope they do very well with American audiences. For the most part, I've seen. Oh, dude, you would love the freeze. Like, dude, it after like the third time, you just start laughing. It's just funny. It's like this is fucking. The music is perfect. It's like one of the most undersung scores for me. All the Colors of the Dark. Yes, we're going to be talking that one next. Respectfully disagree. Edwige is the queen of Giallo. All else are second. She is the Washington on the female Giallo Rushmore. Okay, fair enough. She gives me Audrey Hepburn vibes, similar face, absolutely gorgeous actress. I agree. She does have the Hepburn vibes for sure. Like, I always say that she, even though it's not a good comparison, it really isn't, because Marilyn Monroe wasn't as good an actress, but I would say she was the Italian Marilyn Monroe. Like, she was bigger than life there, but it's not a good comparison. It's not. I agree with you. She definitely has Audrey vibes. I agree with that. Thanks. Was just interested to hear your thoughts. Dude, you're so welcome. House of the Laughing Windows is awesome. I agree. Finally, about time Laughing Windows got restored. I agree. Haddonfield mascots in the house. Been loving the channel. Edwige is awesome. Watched Bloody Iris and Strip Nude recently. Stoked to catch some of this. Dude, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate your enthusiasm for the channel. Yeah, this one, you can watch it on Tubi or not Tubi if you want. I think it's good. I think it's underrated. I don't see the hatred that this movie gets. I know there are some people that say it's Bava's worst movie. Don't ever watch it. It's not going to. I disagree. And Mateo said a Bava is a Bava, man. Even Bava's worst. Even if you do think this is Bava's worst, there are a lot worse ways to spend 80 minutes, man. And you have beautiful, beautiful women. You have great cinematography. And one more thing I want to mention before we do move on here, because it was a point I made a mental note to make, is that when I watch Mario's films, I really do think back to something my good buddy Alfa Romero said. And he says the best directors generally start in another part of the film business and then become filmmakers, right? Mario is a perfect example of that. Mario was a cinematographer for 15 years before he directs Black Sunday. He'd never directed anything else before that. It was 15 years of getting your feet wet, of learning the business, of learning your craft and honing your skill and becoming this star, right? And then, of course, you get your big chance, you get your big day, and it's Black Sunday, it's Barbara Steele, it's Gothic Horror 101, and you just blew the roof off this motherfucker. And then Black Sabbath, and so on and so forth. I agree with Alpha wholeheartedly. And he even mentioned, look at a guy like George, right? Look at George Romero himself. The guy was a world-class editor. He went to school for editing. He went to film, like the newspaper reels, and he would edit all this stuff together, these newspaper clippings and things like that, and ultimately becomes the George Romero we all know and love by the late 60s. He worked all through the late 50s into the early 1960s learning that stuff. He was a master editor. I always say George was a better editor than he was a writer, than he was a director, than he was anything else. I think George was the best editor of all time, and it shows in his films. And even in modern day, look at Rob Eggers. Rob Eggers was a production designer for how many years until he does The Witch? And then now Rob Eggers is making $50 million movies, remakes of Nosferatu that are setting the world on fire and making over 150 plus million at the box office. So to me, I am wholeheartedly there. And to me, the true best directors do start in some way, shape, or form in other facets of the film business. And Mario is one of those guys to me. One of the all-time greats, Mario Bava, and one to always watch for, in my opinion, his filmography, one that you shouldn't skip if you're an Edwige fan, if you're a Mario fan, or if you're just a whodunit / Giallo fan. $5 for an August Moon. Really recommend this one. Mateo says, I think I'm so much an Edwige fan because it's almost impossible to oozing sexuality and have grace at the same time, but she does so. Yes, I think she's just such a, I feel cliche to say, but she's just a movie star. Like you look at her and there's no other profession. That woman shouldn't be working in an office taking shorthand. The woman shouldn't be, taking phone calls and calls. That's a movie star, man. That's just what it is. And I don't know. I think she had a lot of range. I really do. And I agree with you. She's just like, to me, she personifies sex and sexuality. But, and I know some people hear that and they'll go, oh, well, that's in a negative way, right? No, not at all. I think it's in the best possible way. And that's why I love Edwige as well. So, yeah, no, big fan. And speaking of things I'm a big fan of, let's get into this movie we're talking about next here, from the year 1972. And, of course, as we get into this, I'll discuss, her rise to stardom, her marriage, and stuff like that. Of course, we'll get more into the woman herself as we're going chronologically in order here. This was, of course, 2 years after the $5 for an August Moon. This is from the year 1972. Has the Italian title of Tutti I Calore del Buio. I'm sorry if I fucked that up, Matteo. But in English, it translates to this little title right here. I'm talking about All the Colors of the Dark. Yes, All the Colors of the Dark from 1972 from director Sergio Martino. Brief plot synopsis. Jane lives in London with Richard, her boyfriend. When she was 5, her mother was murdered and she recently lost a baby in a car accident. She's plagued by nightmares of a knife-wielding, blue-eyed man. Her boyfriend Richard thinks vitamins could be the cure. Jane's sister Barbara thinks a psychiatrist is the answer. And a neighbor Jane's just met promises that if Jane participates in a black mass, all her fears will disappear. Jane tries the mass, but it seems to bring her nightmares more to life. My favorite performance of hers. I think this is, in my opinion, her pinnacle as an actress and easily my favorite performance from her. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite Martino. It would be this or Torso. I like this more than Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. It's probably slightly better than your room. Your Vice is a locked room and only I have the key. And yeah, I would say it's better than that, slightly, but a little bit above that. But before we get into the movie itself, I mean, of course, her rise to stardom, right? Of course, she met the actor that she works with here, who is actually top billed over her, is George Hilton. George Hilton met her in the 1970s. They met in a hotel lobby and they were working on a picture together, and they instantly clicked. They were really good friends. From what I understand, there was no sexual relation there other than the ones and sex scenes that they filmed in the movies. It sounded like they just became really good friends. His family met her family met his family. They were just good friends, clicked really well, went out and enjoyed each other as friends. George Hilton, of course, knew Luciano Martino, and Luciano Martino was a producer at the time. His brother Sergio was directing films around this time. And of course, Luciano, he saw her and was immediately head over heels in love with her. And he went crazy for her. And he reached out to George, said, please, can you introduce us? Like, I just find this girl incredible. I find her so absolutely beautiful. I want to shoot my shot. So he introduced the two of them. He immediately casted he and George Hilton. And George Hilton did this in return for a leading role in one of, Luciano's movies. Luciano and her met, and for him. And I think it was love at first sight. And they started dating and they eventually married in 1971, would ultimately divorce by the 1979 year. So that is unfortunate, but they were married. And a lot of the films she did around this time were produced by her husband, Luciano Martino. And then in I guess, relation to that, directed by Sergio Martino. So that was really how she got integrated in all of this. And of course, Sergio worked with her a lot, right? She's in Mrs. Ward. She's in Your Vice. She's in this movie. And then she's also in movies like Strip Nude for Your Killer and so on and so forth. I mean, she did so many Gialli films, so many. But this remains my favorite from a standpoint of a performance. And to me, it is the best, I guess, example. If I know Bradley was asking before, why do you like her as an actress? Why would you pick to spotlight her specifically? This is the movie that comes to mind when I'm thinking spotlighting Edwige, specifically. I don't look any further than this movie because it has a little bit of everything about why I like her. Of course, we follow this woman that she plays. Jane is the character's name, and she is this traumatized woman that witnessed her mother killed right in front of her when she was a child. And of course, she is also recovering from the loss of her unborn child in a car accident she suffered with her husband. A woman that's going through a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, the bad times, if you will. And of course, what you have with this particular movie, in my opinion, is a fantastical nightmare. It's very, and may he rest in peace, it's the most Lynchian of any Martino's films. The opening scene alone feels very Eraserhead, very Lynchian to me, and how that whole scene opens, where we have this crazy reenactment of her mother being killed, but there's also some weird dream things drawn into this. Then we see this car driving along the road, these purple filters, we see the crash, and then we're introduced to Jane as she wakes up in bed, and you see these nightmares are plaguing her life. These nightmares are kind of driving her insane and driving her off the road, and she's literally just had it up to here. We do see Edwige take a very hot shower, and I emphasize the hot because it's amazing. She sits down, and then we're introduced to these core characters that do care for her, right? Her boyfriend, played by George Hilton. He wants her to take drugs because he's a pharmacist. Hey, drugs will make all this go away. You just have to listen to me. Her sister, of course, Barbara's the sister. She wants her to go to a psychiatrist and discuss this stuff and let it out. And then, of course, she eventually meets this woman from across the hall, her neighbor, who says, hey, drugs aren't working. A psychiatrist isn't working. Why don't you try a sex cult with me? And we follow Edwige throughout this entire movie as slowly but surely we know that this blue-eyed man, who is fantastically played in this movie by Ivan Razumov, who is just so sinister in this movie, wearing these blue contact lenses and slowly but surely stalking Edwige from beginning to end. And there's amazing sequences by Sergio Martino here. If you want to watch good direction, good tension, good scare sequences, you look no further than All the Colors of the Dark and how this particular movie is directed. He did such a fantastic job, in my opinion, with this movie. There's a great scene where Edwige, she's going home after seeing the psychiatrist and kind of opening up to him. She gets on this, I guess it's a dolly or a tram. I don't know exactly what you would call that. Correct me if I'm wrong, whatever she's on. She gets on it, she sits down, and I like, again, she tells a story with her expression, her eyes, her sadness, her emotion. She kind of just looks down and she's looking upset and discouraged. And we see all these happy-go-lucky people around her. They get off at a stop, and then we see a man get on, and it's his back. And then when he turns around, it's the blue-eyed man from her nightmares. And then, of course, as the tram kind of loses its lights or goes through a tunnel, he gets closer and closer and closer until the chase is on. And then, of course, there's a scene she's walking in the park. She thinks she's ditched him. I've ditched him. I'm free. I'm fine. He's right behind her. And then, of course, bam, in front of her all before you know it. And then she just kind of runs, panics back to the apartment, and is like, holy shit, I am losing my goddamn mind. I really like that. I really like the way the scare sequences are done in this movie, and they really never let up. It really is a full throttle, scare sequence-esque movie. And, of course, they get into some crazy shit, right? We talk about some interesting things with psychiatrists. Do you think this is because of your unborn son, your unborn daughter not making it in the car accident? She's like, no, I don't think that's what it is at all. This has been haunting me my entire life, and I'm really looking to move forward and get on with it, and I can't. It's her struggle that she is literally willing to do anything to get her sanity back, even if said, thing getting your sanity back is insanity. And of course, after all these things don't work, she goes to this kind of blood coven, this cult that worships Satan himself and sacrifices these animals and herons and foxes and things like that, and make you drink the blood while they make out with you and rip your clothes off. It's extremely psychedelic. It's extremely of the 1970s era. It's very much, what that time period was for movies like this, right? It's very much Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It feels that way. It has that aura and tone to it, if you will. And that's what I really like about All the Colors of the Dark. It's possibly his most psychedelic, fantastical nightmare of a movie, and would be a great double bill with A Lizard in a Woman's Skin from Lucio Fulci. Like, those movies back to back would just be a really trippy night, no pun intended. There's some great scenes where she's in this coven and she's getting her clothes ripped off and things like that. And they're telling her, listen, if you submit to here, you'll be able to get rid of the fear. And she goes home and she sleeps good for a night. And she's like, oh my God, I'm free. Like, let's get lunch tomorrow. Let's carry on with our lives. So she and of course, George Hilton, they go out for lunch and he goes, oh, I'm just going to make a quick call. Okay. She's sitting in the restaurant, and then the Ivan Razumov character, the blue-eyed man, the blue-contacted man, he shows up in the window and he's looking at her, and then she, oh my God, has to get away, gets in the car, trying to drive away, and he's right in front of the car. Again, really cool. I think all that stuff was really well done. Like this, he was able to create this sort of suave boogeyman, was Sergio Martino with Ivan Razumov. I thought that was a really, really good performance. And really, I thought the way he shot around him made him feel so much more threatening and sinister, right? It almost felt like the hitchhiker from the Twilight Zone. We see him pop up in all these places. And again, there's a suave about it, but it's also kind of terrifying, even though he's not really doing all that much. It's a good way to invoke horror on the viewer. I thought that stuff was good. Of course, you do get to, I think, kind of a rather crazy finale where Edwige is sent off with these two random people. Hey, we want you to stay away from this killer. We want you to be safe. We want you to be sound, all this stuff. And, she goes to stay there. And then the next morning she wakes up and they're both dead. These two people, these total strangers that took her in. And then it's Jane's sister, Barbara, Richard, and the psychiatrist all hearing about this and saying, okay, we got to go to this and see what's going on, and I think the beauty of this movie, the beauty of it is they kind of play a little bit on the trope of Rosemary's Baby. What do I mean by that? Throughout the entire picture, you have the whole thought for the viewer, is she really seeing these things or is she going insane? Is she really, this traumatized woman that is being stalked down, or, is she just crazy and just has lost her mind and there's no saving her, there's no going back? I love how they do that here, and they really don't answer it up until the last 15 minutes or so of the film. We do find out that her sister, Barbara, is very jealous of her and her relation with Richard, and she's doing it out of love for him. She figures, well, if I drive her insane and she goes on and kills herself or dies, then I'll be able to A, get her inheritance. There you have the theme of greed. And B, I'll get the guy that I don't think she should be with. And there's this really interesting scene where, George Hilton finds out about this and he walks into her apartment. And I love the use of color in this movie. I love that it's not overly done. It's not overly stylized, but it's really well done and like kind of pixie dust in there. I really thought that was smart. I thought that was really, really gave the picture a nice, not over stylized or colorized sense, but just enough to kind of get your point across. You have this like purple room, this green bathroom, and then these green beads that the two characters are talking to each other as they're looking on, and she's admitting, what she's done. And you see that she's a part of this cult. You see that, oh my God, you're a part of the cult, and you told her that she killed Mary and all of these things. And you're like, wow, like, holy shit, this is absolutely crazy. She gets shot and killed by George Hilton. And then they go to her and say, hey, everything you did see was real. These were real people. These were like escaped convicts, right? Manson family-esque convicts that were, tricking you and seducing you and sacrificing animals in front of you, all this crazy shit, that people and fucked up people on drugs would do, to be honest, as the movie plays out. And I thought that that whole unveil was really good. And I liked the whole questioning throughout the whole movie, like, is she crazy? Is she not going crazy? Like, what's going on? And I like that we get our ultimate answer as this movie kind of comes to an end. And I don't know, I really have always liked All the Colors of the Dark. It's probably my second favorite Martino, only next to Torso. I think it's just so good. It's quick too. It's like 94 minute movie. This one from Severin is in Italian, and it does have some really cool features. So I highly recommend you do pick this Blu-ray up. This is a good Blu-ray. Looks fantastic. To me, if you're a fan of this movie, you got to get this edition because it's so worth it. All the Colors of the Dark, a really great Giallo. In probably my top 10 Gialli. I would say it's towards the bottom of that list. Like, you have the holy trinity of Black Lace, Duckling, Profondo Rosso, and then everything else, right? Then I would say Tenebrae would be in there. Opera would be in there. Martino's Torso would absolutely be in there. House of the Laughing Windows would probably make that. Alice, Sweet Alice would easily be in my top 10. This one would make it. This one would absolutely be in there. I don't know where, but it would definitely be. Maybe one day we'll do a top 10 Gialli, and that one would definitely make the list for sure. So that is All the Colors of the Dark. Let's see what you all have to say in the comments here. You got me watching it today, buddy. Great movie. It came out. If it came out now, you slapped an A24. Yeah, that's true. It definitely has that artsy feel of like the modern day A24. But I also think, again, all of these movies, and a big reason why I like them, they're just distinctly of their time. Like, this is you could only make this movie in the 70s, and it, like, because that's what was going on. That's what the culture was at that time. So it really fucking fits. Do you think All the Colors have the best dream scenes in Gialli? I think so. This or Death Walks at Midnight for sure, best acting performance. I agree, best acting performance. I would say yes. I think the dream sequences of this are amazing because, again, they blur the line. It's not, you don't just immediately go, okay, this is 100% a dream sequence. There's scenes that seem entirely real. Like, towards the end of the movie, George Hilton, he goes up, he goes, hey, I'll go get the elevator for us. He goes up, and all of a sudden he's getting stabbed and killed, and she's like, oh my God, and then she wakes up. I thought that was real the first time I saw it. So even up until the last reel of the film, they were tricking me into thinking, is this reality? Is this a dream? That's a job well done. And the dream, they're weird. I like how wonderfully weird they are. They're not just your straightforward run-of-the-mill dream. There's imagination, creativity, and ultimate weirdness in these dreams. Like the opening, I swear you'd think you're watching a David Lynch movie. Like that very opening shot of the one with the rotted teeth in the bedroom. That's fucking Lynch all over it. All Colors of the Giallo is a unique flavor, one of a kind. Same with What Have You Done to Solange? And, that would easily be in my top 10 as well. See, that's the problem. I've named close to 10 movies that are in my top 10. And like, if I kept going, it'd be like, this is my top 10. Like, all right, you have 37 movies in your top 10. What the fuck? So that would absolutely, dude, Christina Galbo absolutely needed to be a bigger star than she was. I still think it's a travesty she wasn't a bigger star because I love her in that. I love her in fucking House That Screamed. I love her in Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. I thought that lady could have been a mega star if they pushed her right. And they just didn't really, I don't know if they didn't see the talent or if it was this whole personal tragedy of, I know she lost her husband really young. Like he died at like 30, I believe, of a brain tumor. So that was really, really sad. And I know that it really weighed on her. So maybe that's why she got out of the business. I think Christine Galbo now owns like a dance academy studio or something somewhere in the States. So, or no, it's not in the States. It would definitely be in Spain, I would think. But I'm not sure. I concur. I have the same problem when making exactly. Yeah. Like I would really have to sit down, get a list of every single one I've seen, and then, but honestly, those top three there's no change in them. And this would be on there. Like, no, I'm not even, I promise you this would be on there. This for me is like 8.5. I think this is a really fucking good Giallo. I really do. This is not available to stream anywhere to my knowledge. Of course, the Blu-ray is a good option. I think they did, Merns might have it. They had I think it was a box set of this and the documentary called All the Colors of the Giallo, and it came in a little box. That I don't have, but I believe that's how this was released. I bought them separately, so I don't have that box where it's a really cool box. I can show you the cover. I just have to cover up Edwige's yet, so forgive me here. That is the cover of the box that this came in with the documentary, which I love this. I actually kind of wish they had that as an alternate cover for this, even though the Italian original one sheet, I mean, you can't fucking beat that. That's a great poster. And it's funny, it's not the top two. That's not Edwige at the top. It's Edwige here. But this cover I think is incredible. Like the Satan's claw going for her, Edwige sleeping, hence the dream stuff. Really cool movie. I'm a big fan. Highly recommend this one. Let's see. I have the same problem when making top tens. Yeah. Dance Academy maybe yeah, no, let's hope not. Like, Jessica Harper shows up and fucking who the fuck else? Joan Crawford. Oh no, that would Suspiria. No, don't want to go there. That's the last place you want to go to a Dance Academy. Top 5 Giallo for me. Tenebrae, Laughing Windows. What have they done to your daughters? Don't Torture a Duckling. All the Colors of the Dark. That's a great top 5. It really is a great top 5. I always go, what have you done to Solange over what have they done to your daughters? But I understand that completely. Duckling could be number 1. That's how good that movie is to me. Like, it's Duckling, Black Lace, or Profondo Rosso for the best Giallo ever. But man, those 3 are easily like, they're on their own shelf, right? And then everything else comes below. But when you're talking Martino, this and Torso are right there too. Which, funny enough, is a great transition to the last film we'll be talking about here tonight. A movie that I wouldn't consider on the top of the shelf, probably somewhere more towards the middle, and one that really doesn't get a lot of discussion, a lot of talk. And of course, this came out the same year. In fact, this came out a week prior to All the Colors of the Dark. This was also a February release, and a movie that, unfortunately, it's been rather unlucky, right? Because it came out then, it was not as big of a hit as, of course, All the Colors of the Dark, and it's really not as good as All the Colors of the Dark. But it also does star her and George Hilton, right? And Luciano Martino as the producer, I should say. I'm talking about this movie right here. Italian title. I can give the Italian title here. Perché quale strade gocce de sangue sul corpo de Jennifer, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, translates to something like, why is there blood on Jennifer's body? Which, this is a lot better than Jennifer's Body. I'll say that much. I definitely think it's better than Jennifer's Body. But the English translation here, a lot simpler title. The Case of the Bloody Iris. Yes, The Case of the Bloody Iris. Brief plot synopsis. Having recently escaped the clutches of her ex-husband's sex cult, a beautiful model is stalked by a masked killer whose previous victims include the former occupants of her new apartment. So, this, I do think, is like a middle-of-the-road Giallo. I don't know where on that shelf I would have it, but of these 3 movies, it is probably the weaker one. Now, this was released by, and I dropped the fucking thing, so forgive me for that, but this was released by Celluloid Dreams, which is a rather new company. This was, I believe, their first 4K title. I will tell you right now, if you're a physical media collector, I don't care what you need to get this movie in 4K. I was fucking blown away sitting here watching this 4K. Like, the transfer, the colors, oh my God, this is one of the best restorations I've ever seen of a movie. It's really unbelievable. And then the movie itself, it's like, it's average, it's okay, but I mean, fuck, I wish one of these 2 movies could have had a 4K like this. But again, no disrespect to the movie itself. Duckling is insanely good. I'm sorry, I'm honest. The last title, you butchered it, but I appreciate the effort. I mean, I appreciate that. No, I'm sorry if am I right to sort of what it translates to? Could you give me what it translates? Is it something like that? So, like, why is there blood on Jennifer's body or something? I think that's what it's translating to, but forgive me. I don't know. I tried. I did. There was effort, and I do appreciate that it was appreciated. Case of the Bloody Iris, though. This, again, in the same year of 1972, where she did not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 fucking movies. That was her biggest year as an actress. She did 6 movies that released in 1972. So she was the busiest woman alive that year. Luciano had her working day and night and day. And this was the one that wasn't directed by Martino, right? Of course, he makes Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, All the Colors of the Dark, those 2 directed by Sergio. And then this one, The Elephant in the Room, Giuliano Carnamio, he's the one that directed this under a pseudonym of Anthony Alscott or something like that. It's some bullshit pseudonym, but that's who really directed this. This was his one and only ever venture into making giallo films. He never ever made another giallo in his career. In fact, he made mostly romantic comedies, and I watched one of them called Poker in Bed. So fair enough. Funny enough, a couple years later, they would work together on Poker in Bed. This wasn't his bread and butter, and it clearly shows. Like, you can clearly, as a fan of giallo, realize that this is someone that is new to the ball game. And like, I don't think he necessarily does a bad job, but when you're watching this movie in the same week where you're watching a Bava and a Martino respectively, the direction is just not going to seem or be as up to par as those other two guys. I mean, and that's not disrespecting this director. I do see effort here. I don't think this was I'm just taking this for the job, I'm just phoning this in. I don't think that at all. I think this was just his first shot. And like everything else, it takes time sometimes to really kind of work your way into it, right? Like with Sergio's Gialli, I always felt they got better as they went on. A lot of people point to The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward as the best. No way. To me, it's like as he kept going, they got better and better and better. I really believe that. But with this particular movie, I like the setup. This movie opens with an interesting scene where the woman is taking a call on a payphone, and she kind of goes into this apartment and then gets stabbed in the stomach when she's on the elevator. And it's a really interesting way to open the film. You're like, holy shit, like, who set this lady up? This lady's sitting in the elevator, blood's pouring out of her chest as the next people that go to ride the elevator find her dead. Then we fast forward to a nightclub where we see all of these women that works at models / strippers / sex workers. I don't know exactly what the title you would give them would be. And of course, one of them that is a model is none other than Edwige Fenech. She's taking pictures with this photographer, and of course, George Hilton, who other than George Hilton, her good buddy in real life, and then her partner in the movies, really. He comes in and he takes a liking to her, and he's thinking she's really attractive. And then, of course, they all move into this high-rise apartment where the woman was killed in the beginning, and one by one, they're all being picked off by this killer in a mask and black gloves, giallo style. I like the setup. I think some of the death sequences are well done. There's a really interesting scene where this woman who is one of the biggest attractions of the nightclub, and they have her wrestle men, and if you can hold her, pin her down in 3 minutes, you get a free night with her or something. They have her, and then she's in her apartment, and the killer is there, and they have this interesting thing where she gets pushed into the bathtub, tied down, and then the person just turns the water on ever so slowly. So this woman drowns, and she's kind of struggling and stuff like that. And I almost thought it was kind of a wink to, yeah, the guys can't pin you, but I can pin you in this tub and you're going to drown. And I thought they did a really interesting editing technique where they're filming her like struggling, and then it's the next morning and she's dead, and they keep the shot. The shot never cuts. And then they go up to these guys that are detectives and are like, oh my gosh, what happened here? I liked that. I thought that was really interesting. Edwige's character, of course, was a part with her previous relationship in a sex cult where, again, very much of its time, very much in similar vein to this particular movie, right, where she joins the cult to gain her sanity. Here, she's just in the cult kind of against her will, but because of her husband or lover at the time, he's kind of like into all this stuff, and he pours all these irises on her, and literally it feels like Lucy in the sky with diamonds, as you get this cover here where there's no red flowers that are poured on her in the film, but they're like these, yellow and green flowers, as she kind of sits up, and they have this kind of consensual, really hot scene together. That guy shows up at a point and says, you son of a bitch, you'll never live down leaving us. You'll never live down leaving our group. And the name of the group that she's a part of is Iris. Iris is the name of the cult. And then, of course, as we're, move on to this movie, we're introduced to more and more characters. And there's a lot of red herrings in here. There's a ton of red herrings. Almost one too many, I would say, because I am very rarely one to say, I know who the killer is. This is one where I got it. I guessed the right killer. And I was like, wow, like that's fucking, I don't know if that's bad or good or what, but I was like, wow, I actually guessed the right killer. You have this weird old lady that lives across the hall, and it seems like she's hiding something in her apartment. It ends up being her deformed son. That is an ultimate red herring in this movie. There's the guy, of course, Edwige's ex-boyfriend who, he says, I'll come back for you and don't make me hurt you, but I'll go get you if I have to. That stuff is really good too. I think he was a good red herring as well, as we get these kind of flashbacks to the psychedelic sex, drug, sexcapades, if you will, that I really enjoyed and I thought were definitely entertaining in 4K ultra high definition. That stuff was great. I really liked that. Where this movie lacks is in some of its direction, though. Like, whereas before I was discussing great stock sequences and the tension that you feel in a Martino movie of the tram and then walking through the park and the way that he's able to build tension from these, otherwise normal everyday life things and add suspense and horror and tension. That's where this director struggled. And again, when he's not from that world, it makes perfect sense. It really does. Like, for example, there's a scene where Edwige is sleeping and the killer breaks through the window. He's very quiet and he starts to strangle her. And then there's this really weird, odd editing choice where we cut and then it's, oh my God, the roommate thinks, oh, you just dreamed it. And I'm kind of saying, I'm like, man, like that, if Sergio does that, I feel like it's a home run. He would have been able to make it feel dreamsicle enough and to the point where it's like, holy shit, was it? Here, it's like, it's so fucking obvious that it really happened. And I kind of was like, okay, here's a movie that did great with making me question reality versus dream. Here's a movie that I could really tell, and that's, again, I don't mean to be mean or overly critical. I just felt that this movie didn't do those particular sequences as well. And to me, when I'm watching a Giallo, those are key sequences to get right. And maybe I've been spoiled because of all those great directors I mentioned, and Dario and Lucio and Mario, all these great guys that know how to, craft good scare sequences. They're just not here. That's my biggest problem with this movie for me, is some of the direction. Now I will say this, and this is not to be overstated, or understated, I should say. The music in this movie, and not just this movie, but I believe the previous movie we discussed as well, they both have decent enough scores. I don't think these scores are bad at all. And they were done by the protege of one Ennio Morricone, of course, and who I'm referring to is Bruno Nicolai. Bruno Nicolai was a protege, big fan, big follower, supporter, listener, student of, Ennio's game. And I definitely think the soundtrack of this movie shines bright, as it does in this movie as well. The music in all three of these movies, you're not really going to go wrong. But I thought he did a really good job with the score here. Like, I was really interested and engaged with this particular score. And to know that he was a student of Ennio's game, that just sort of endeared me to his music even more. I thought Bruno did a really good job with the music here. There's also, of course, the unveil, which we'll get to. And I do think actually makes this movie a little bit more standout-ish, if you will, because usually Giallos have great reveals, great unveils. This one, I sort of was baffled initially when I saw it of why, like what was the motive exactly. But upon a rewatch and you see the psychology there, I was like, that is actually quite interesting way to take a movie like this. So spoiler alerts, if you haven't seen the movie, one of the red herrings that ends up being the killer himself is this old man that lives across the hallway, and he always plays his violin. And that's basically his alibi throughout. There's points where people breaking in, you can hear the violin faintly in the background and be like, okay, it's not him. He's practicing his violin. That's the ultimate red herring, right? We do realize that he's been playing a recording of him playing the violin, and he's been the one doing the murders. Now, the question is, $64,000 question is, why, oh, why are you killing these fucking hot model sex workers in this high rise? What the hell? He has a daughter, and his daughter's name is Sheila. And there's a scene where she, Edwige, and Edwige's roommate, they all meet in this diner, and you can see that Sheila is interested in women. She's a lesbian. And through that, kind of introduction, that's when I first saw it. I kind of was like, oh my God, like, I think I know where they're going. And they went there. Where they go with it is there's slight suggestion. It's not completely overt. You just kind of see that she's interested in more. She's looking at Edwige like I would look at Edwige, right? Like, you can see that she's interested. The father, of course, this professor character, he doesn't approve of this. And because he feels that all these women are overtly sexual and wear very skimpy clothing and dance in these nightclubs and things like that and sell their bodies for sex, he sees it as the ultimate, you're tarnishing my daughter. You're the reason why my daughter is not into men, but now she's into women. And it's his lack of understanding and acceptance of that drives him to start killing these women one by one in this, high rise. I thought that was a really, really interesting motive because I could absolutely see a disgruntled parent that can't move on, right? This is 1970, so this is a much different time. I'd like to think that we live in times now where things like that are more acceptable. But listen, there are people that will never accept it, that will never go along with something like that. And when you're talking to people like that, it's generally going to be a parent. It's generally going to be someone that can't see it. And what better thing for the to do than to have the father kind of just go, you son of a bitch. Like, no, like, I don't want you guys turning my daughter to this. I'm going to stop you. I'll kill you all if I have to, to try to steer her straight. Really fucking dark. And I dare I say something that was kind of ahead of its time. I had never really seen anything like that done before. And I thought that was really well executed. There's a scene where Edwige and Sheila, they're in this basement and you see the killer turns on this kind of gas valve and it melts Sheila's face. She completely disintegrates away. And you're initially like, well, why would the guy kill his daughter once he's revealed? But he says, you fucking bitch. I was going to blame it all on the the kid with all these problems, the lady that she's hoarding her son, her deformed son in the apartment. He says, I was going to blame it all on him. And I mistaked you for my daughter, or I mistake my daughter for you. And I tried to kill you with the steam there. And he accidentally kills his own pride and joy. So the very thing he was trying to protect, he was trying to steer away, is ultimately the same thing that he ends up losing and killing himself, right? And that, I thought that was pretty strong too. It's the Anakin Skywalker arc, right? I want to protect Padme. I want to keep Padme safe. Padme must survive. I will do anything. I'll betray the Jedi. I'll betray my friends. I'll betray the Order. But at the end of the day, who's the person that killed her? Who led her to her death? It was him himself, and that's a tragic thing, but I think it's really well told. I like that aspect of the movie. It almost, to me, elevates it to completely, like, you're like, okay, fucking saved. Like, is it predictable? Yes. But I do think the motive kind of saved it. I was like, that's pretty interesting. I've never seen that. And that got style points for me. I thought that was really cool. There is also one thing I forgot to mention that is actually quite important is George Hilton's character is hemophobic, which is not homophobic, like the fucking guy, like the dad, hemophobic. He's afraid of blood. And so he's a red herring, but if you notice, a lot of the murders are next to bloodless other than the opening one. Like, you drown this one lady. Oh, shit. She's in the bathtub, no blood. So could it be you? And there's a lot of scenes where Edwige is sort of trying to believe him and give him benefit of the doubt. But by the end, she's convinced it's him. And they go chase George Hilton, and it's really not him. It's this fucking son of a bitch that lives in the high-rise with her that's been pretending to play the violin the whole time. I liked that. I thought that stuff was good. Is it a little rough around the edges with the direction? Absolutely. Good score, though. Edwige does her best. She's always looking good. She always gives a solid enough performance. I do think they didn't give her as much as Sergio would. Like, there's definitely more of her acting kind of one-dimensionally scared in this, as opposed to with this, where there's just so much to say, just if you read her facial expression. Whereas this, it's this very one-dimensional, like, I'm scared. What's going on? I want to get out of this situation. But she does do a fine job in the film as well. She's looking absolutely beautiful, like in all movies. And I don't know. I think this one's okay. I would say like a 6 out of 10 for me. It's nothing great. It's not one of the top giallos. It's probably a middle tier giallo for me. But if you're a 4K collector, man, and you want to see a great transfer, this is truly one of the best transfers I've ever seen. This is unbelievable transfer. So highly recommended for that. And I do think it's worth a watch. I think this one you can stream. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I would recommend you get the 4K if you're a collector, but I'm not positive if this one is streaming. Someone could maybe tell me that. But let's go back to comments. Let's see what y'all have to say about this one, because I am curious as always. Okay, this is what the title translates to in English, the original title that I botched in Italian, so I apologize. Why there are drops of eye blood on Jennifer's body. Eye blood on Jennifer's body? Huh. Well, it's funny because when I found out that, I laughed. I said, Jennifer's body. I was like, this is a lot fucking better than Jennifer's body. I wish they remake Case of the Bloody Irish in America and put Megan Fox in it. And then all of a sudden, I bet you this movie would become a cult classic. Never seen this one. Love that cover art, badass. Dude, Mearns, I know you're a physical media guy like me. it's a must own. It really is. And it's really not even for the film itself. It's just holy fucking shit. I mean, I'm sitting here in awe. Like, I've seen, this is better than some transfers for Kubrick films that I've seen. Like, I was like, how in the fuck was this their first 4K? Just wild. Ginger Ninja is in the house. Yo, Grande's Graveyard. What's up, Ginger Ninja? Hope all is well with you. I come in the chat and it's all about blood gushing and strippers. Well, what else do you expect? Only on the Graveyard. On Edwige Fenech Valentine's Day special night. What else do you expect? Hope all is well with you, man. Hola, THC. Texas is in the house, 1965. What's going on, Tex? Hope all is well with you, buddy. Let's see. Texas, my man. Hope all is well. My favorite Italian movies include Stage Fright. Okay. People saying hi. Movie is okay, but nothing more. Too claustrophobic for me. I also understood who the killer was early on in the movie. Yeah, and like, again, I'm not trying to say that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like I got it. I never. But I was like, it's got to be him, right? And then fucking sure enough, I was like, all right, got one. I fucking got one, you know. But I'm not necessarily a knock, but too claustrophobic. I could see that. It's mostly all in this high rise, right? Like it's mostly what you see. We see this nightclub, not enough. I almost wish there would have been a little bit more in the nightclub, maybe a murder or two more. Because this one, I could see people saying, oh, the pacing, right? Like, it's not a long movie, but I could totally see someone saying they should have added a kill or two. And I would even join those people. They should have added a kill or two. This is a movie that it could have used a little bit more because of the direction that was more so mediocre than on par with one of the greats. My favorite Italian movies include Deep Red, Zombies, New York Ripper, Bay of Blood, Tenebrae, all great movies. We got good brother Jeff in the house, soundtrack to Bloody Irish Rules, Bruno Nicolai. Dude, yes, he did a great job with this score. I think this is a really, really good score upon a rewatch. I was like, damn, like I was very impressed with that. I really did. He's saying, what's up? People saying hi. Let's see. Director Bloody Iris, Caramillo would go on to direct Ratman, which is absolutely crazy, stupid, and hilarious. I believe it was his last movie. That's right. That was in like the late 80s. And I also mentioned before, I don't know if you were here, he directed Poker in Bed, which was another Edwige movie that I did watch this week. So it's funny. I watched more movies from this director this week than I did the Martino and Bava. It's funny how these things work out. Definitely the same. Miss C, that's a really interesting idea for a killer. Yes, I completely agree. I think like that really makes the ending stand out a little bit. If it had just been a really bad explanation, or if it would have been a situation where like, my wife was in the cult and she died and I hate all of you. And like, I'm getting revenge on people that weren't even responsible for it. There's giallos, there's slasher movies where that's the case. I'm always like, well, what did these people have to do with you? Like fucking, I talked about it a couple weeks ago, Urban Legend. What did any of those people other than Alicia Witt have to do with the fucking motive of the killer? There was none of those people were responsible at all. But like here, I thought that was smart. Like, okay, she likes women. She hangs around with all these women. They all live in the same place. Thus, if I eliminate them, maybe she'll steer. Like that's something a crazy motherfucker would think. Then I was like, that's fucking, I like that. I thought that was well written. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yes, it is. And bloody irises, you son of a bitch. I still need to upgrade for my shameless blue. Dude, honestly, fuck. Upgrade. Like, upgrade. I got this on sale. This was finally, because when this dropped, I couldn't believe the fucking price. I believe it was in the $40 range. And if it was like $39.99. So it's fucking $40, whatever. I'm like, for this movie? Like, I like the movie, okay. But $40 fucking dollars for this? Like, fuck. Like, I couldn't pull the trigger. It finally dropped down to like 25, and I finally pulled the trigger on it. I was like, thank you, fucking finally. No slip, unfortunately. That was my consequence. $15, and I lose my fucking slip. But that is what I didn't lose the slip. They didn't send it with one, I should say. So no slip, unfortunately, for my ass. I'm sure if you bought it straight from celluloid and paid a little bit more, you'd get the slip. But whatever. I honestly, to save $15, they can keep their slip and they can wipe their fucking ass with it for all I care. And not saying what they did was good, but they thought they were doing good and had warped good intentions because of their ignorance. I'll watch this for that. Exactly. I like that. To me, that's the psychology of a killer. It's like, I'm thinking I'm doing good. I think I'm the good guy. I think I'm watching out for her best intention and best interest when I'm really just a fucking maniac that are killing all these innocent people that have nothing to do with her sexual orientation and who she's attracted to. And instead, this guy just goes fucking crazy and thankfully gets his just desserts as he's thrown down this high rise and splats down like a grape. And then we do get an interesting setup at the end where it's a replay from the opening scene and somebody else is getting called on the phone. You're like, wait a minute, what? Like, and then it just kind of leaves it a cliffhanger, which I went, oh shit, I kind of smirked at that. It's fine. It's definitely, it's, I would put it above Strip Nude for Your Killer. I would put it above The Editor. I would put it above certain Gialli. But again, it's not like one that you should go out of your way to see. It was expensive for sure. Came with a mouse pad. A mouse pad? What? Are you kidding me? Really? What the fuck would you do with a mouse pad with it? What? That is so weird. Do you think this film would benefit from a remake with a better director? Without a doubt, the answer to that question is yes. It's not necessarily that he did a bad job directing. He just was a fish out of water. This wasn't his type of movie. It wasn't. You could clearly tell this was something he wasn't comfortable in doing. And he never tried again. Like if you asked me if I was a movie critic in 1972 and I got out of the theater and seeing this and you said, should this man make any more Gialli? My answer wouldn't be no. My answer would be yes. I would say yes, let the guy fucking grow, let the guy learn it, and he can go from there. But clearly, he never did another one. He worked with the lead actress again, so he may have liked working with Edwige, but it's a situation where, hey, I could have done more. I could have done more Gialli because that's all that was coming out around that time. It was a big, big phenomenon. And he decided to go right back to what he was doing. So I don't think he was comfortable doing it. Just wasn't his cup of tea. That happens. But if you're asking me, hey, if you're going to watch a movie with a director who wasn't into making this type of movie, that wasn't his cup of tea, I think you could do worse. I think you could really do worse than this. I do. I don't think it's a bad film. Yeah, it was a mouse pad with a movie cover. Really can't imagine. Yeah, I can't either. Oh, hey, Phil, did you see my fucking case of the bloody iris mouse pad? I'm gonna surf the internet all day and process service tickets. Like what the fuck? What? That is the weirdest shit ever. I don't know. That is a weird exclusive to have. I don't know if this came with a soundtrack as well. You have the 4K. You have a Blu-ray, and then you have coming soon. Black Belly of the Tarantula, a little snippet for that, which I'm not sure if that got released yet. I would think so, but I don't know. They did a great job. I'll tell you what, I will definitely be picking up more Celluloid Dream releases. I just thought, it would be interesting to get some other titles that like this is one. It's a good starting point if you're into Gialli. This is not a bad movie to start with, but again, you can get better. So that's kind of where I'm at. 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Sometimes it's people, they love or hate something. This is a movie that's like, I see the glass half full with this movie. That's why you round up, I guess, to a 6. Like the glass is half full. Edwige Fenech. I mean, you can't go wrong. So yeah, those are the 3 Gialli of the night. $5 for an August Moon, which I gave a 7.5 out of 10. All the Colors of the Dark, which I gave an 8.5 out of 10. And then this last one, The Case of the Bloody Irish, which I would go like a 6 out of 10. It's early. I mean, we could still keep talking if you guys want, or we can wrap. No pressure or anything. If anyone wants to talk more Edwige, we can. Definitely need to get the Black Belly disc. I still have the Blue Underground DVD, long overdue. Yeah, dude, I had a fucking... My God, for the amount of Blue Underground stuff, I have an upgrade. Maniac, I still have the Blu-ray. City of Living Dead, I still have the DVD. And they released, I think, what was it? Cauldron did that giant 4K of City of Living Dead that I should have just got. And I was like, no, I still have the DVD from Blue Underground. Like, there's certain movies where I feel stupid I didn't pull the trigger. We need to bring back nice movie mouse pads for the collectors. Where's a Meet the Feebles mouse pad? God damn it. Yes, I want my Cemetery Man mouse pad or my Dead Alive mouse pad with with the lawnmower on it and all the gore. That is so, like, what a weird... we're going to release this with an exclusive, never before seen mouse pad of fucking Edwige Fenech. I guess we could wrap with saying my overall thoughts of her as an actress. I will say this, and I should have mentioned this in the intro, but I just was kind of rolling. The first movie I ever saw her in, you would think, oh, it's got to be one of the Martino titles, right? I'm ashamed to say this, but the first movie I ever saw Edwige Fenech in was Hostel 2. Yeah. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. Throw your tomatoes at me. I will dodge them or catch them and throw them back. The first movie I ever saw with her in it was, in fact, Eli Roth's Hostel 2. Horrible movie, as are all the Hostels. But she's in the very beginning. That's like these women. Basically, the only thing they change in Hostel 1 from Hostel 2 was in the first one, it's 3 obnoxious Eli Roth-esque women and men. And then this third one, the second one, they're all fucking women. That's all he fucking changed. They're all obnoxious fucking characters. They're doing this like painting of a nude person. And who else is the art teacher than Edwige? And I remember I first saw her there. And then it was years down the road where I was like, holy shit, that's the same lady. Like when I first finally started getting into Gialli, I was like, that's the same fucking lady that's in Hostel 2 in that brief scene. Like that must have been his homage to her, right? And of course, I know later in the film, Hostel 2, Ruggero Deodato shows up in a cameo. So Eli paid tribute and homage to, you know, a lot of the Italian legends that I really like. Unfortunately, his movies just aren't there in that ballpark of the good Italian movies that he likes and I like. Apparently, they're just not in that ballpark. Also, much respect to Grande. I didn't say much because I'm not familiar with this actress. I might go check out the one you said on Tubi. Can't go wrong. Let's go. Hostel 2 is boss. Oh, is it? If she was American and with a little bit more talent, she could have been in the stardom, my humble opinion. I agree with that. I mean, would this set? Let me ask this question to everybody. I guess that is familiar with her, and I know Matteo would be probably the most familiar. Would you say she was a megastar? I mean, to me, in my eyes, megastar. Like when I think like all-time great horror movie actresses, she's one that absolutely comes to mind for me, like easily. Like when we did I know we did the Scream Queen thing, like, and I put her in there, and you know, whatever, giving her that title, but I totally consider one of the best of those of that era, and easily in the top most beautiful, arguably maybe the most beautiful. Hostel 2 is cool. Deodato's in it too. That's right. Throw me the tomatoes. Hostel 1 and 2 are great. Oh boy. Hostel 3 is trash. Yeah, Hostel 3 is basically the Hangover if it was a Hostel movie. That's basically what it is. Like they should have just got Zach Galifianakis and all them in it. And made it, that would have been fucking hysterical. Exactly. I think I've seen Hostel 2 is that one with the girl from the Princess Diaries getting killed over the bat. That's right. Yes, that it does happen. I don't like all of Eli's flicks, but I have a lot of respect for him. I have respect for his fandom. Like it's funny. I should like him more than I do because he's into a lot of the same stuff I'm into. It's just the fact that I don't think he ever made anything that is as good or even on a similar small level that like dude, I guarantee you if Eli tried to make a Giallo, it wouldn't be as good as this movie. And this is coming from a guy that didn't like making that type of film. It's like sometimes I felt like his fandom got in the way. Like Green Inferno, that should have been everything that we ever could have wanted and desired as fans of cannibal movies of the late 1970s into the early 1980s. And it's like he completely missed the point. It was a complete sensationalism for no reason, but the whole idea and thing with that, like to me, always was the psychology of a cannibal film. Here in Cannibal Ferox or Cannibal Holocaust, you have these New York City film preps, right? In Holocaust, and then there's these New York preps in Ferox that go and they overstep their boundaries. They burn down these people's houses. They destroy their food, and they get fucking taken care of for that. Green Inferno, you had guys shitting in the corner. You had fucking the Junie from Spy Kids was in it. You had the one idiot guy. It felt more like a parody of a Italian cannibal movie than an actual Italian cannibal movie. But again, one place, one time, right? I think that cannibal era, that just, you can't really remake movies like that, and you can't modernize them either. It's just, that's what they really were. Eli name drop House of Laughing Windows once in an interview, and he instantly earned my respect. Yes, he's a true fan. There's no doubt he's a true fan. All of his movies need more gore, in my opinion. Green Inferno sucked ass. Dude, it really fucking did. I feel like Green Inferno, what was missing was the psychology. It's like, how did you fucking miss the psychology like that, man? Like, it's just... it kind of frustrates me. Yeah, but it's different times. They updated the feel as people have changed. I see that, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like even though he's a big fan, he completely missed what made those movies great to me. I would not say megastar, but recognized by Italian as the sexiest woman in the 70s and 80s due to the B movies she was in, was never considered an actress, but worshipped as a goddess for her natural beauty. That's true. I mean, you're right. For example, the comedy I watched, that was a B movie. I mean, fuck, that's a B movie if I've ever seen one. Was the Poker in Bad, which is a shame that like and I saw even an interview with her. I watched an interview with her for the show that she was even saying, I wish it wasn't my sex that always sold my pictures, but she said that did, and we embraced it, and like I think she was smart to embrace it because if you don't, they probably would have showed her the door. I don't think it would have been a situation where, okay, we'll never, I think she was really smart about the way she went about her career and obviously married a producer that got her a lot of leading roles. And then she kind of just took off into stardom. So I don't know. I agree with you. If she was American, if it was here, if it was a situation where she maybe put her foot down here as opposed to Italy, maybe. I see her as one though, but I know what you mean. I guess the general consensus. You say that name, I don't think every Joe Blow on the block is going to know Edwige Fenech. I don't think so. I really don't. We're going to know because we're a bunch of bloodhounds and we love the genre, but I don't think it's not a household name. It's just not. You can't top Cannibal Holocaust. You just can't. Dude. Exactly. You just can't. You could try. And they did, but you just can't recapture that movie. It's magic. And I know, again, a lot of the controversy and stuff like that with them, and understandably so. Fuck that. What they did go too far. But again, that was the time. The whole impaling the girl on the fucking pole and the whole, oh, good Lord, this is terrible. It's despicable. I don't understand the reason for such cruelty. All that psychology, that's why I love cannibal movies. And it's like, it's just not there in a movie like Green Inferno. But then, hey, look at Sergio Martino eventually with Mountain of the Cannibal God. There's not much psychology in that movie. Just kind of a fun action adventure movie with Ursula Andress get naked. I mean, it's Stacey Keach. I mean, how could you go wrong with that? Even if Eli had made Green Inferno a fun adventure, maybe I could have got with it. But Cannibal Holocaust, and then you make that, I'm sorry, it's shit. It's fine. Thanksgiving was underwhelming. Dude, I haven't seen it. You were one of like two people that said it wasn't good to me. Everybody and their mother tell me I need to watch it and I'm going to love it. I'm just scared because I literally haven't liked an Eli Roth film probably ever. But if I had to pick one, Cabin Fever. I don't mind Cabin Fever. I could watch and not hate, and like that's it. Other than that, though, hate both Hostels. I hate the Death Wish remake. I hate the fucking what the fuck else did he do? This fucking guy. Green Inferno was a piece of monkey shit. He just made the video game movie that fucking bombed, didn't he? Oh my god, I can't think of the fucking name of it, but that fucking bombed. He did like the house with the clock. What the fuck? Fuck him. No. Cool. Seemed like a nice guy. Probably a great guy to talk about the genre with, but his films just don't resonate. Yeah, Corey, Thanksgiving was good, but very mid and overrated in my opinion. I agree with you. Green Inferno was out of the window of popularity with that genre. Those movies were truly examples of guerrilla filmmaking, just wild, too much oversight from studios and censors. Yes, that I agree with you. It was, yeah, cool, you went in there, but it was the whole situation of that time. And it felt like every Italian director was trying to one-up the other. In my movie, we will have a demand that is a ball. In my movie, we will have a man that he will take off a turtle's head. Like, every fucking Italian guy at that time was trying to one up the other. Like, you motherfucker, I'm Umberto Lenzi. I'm going to kick your fucking ass. And I'm going to direct a cannibal movie of my own. Like, that was just really what was going on. It was fun. It really felt like anything you could do, I could do better. And that was, then fucking Diodato makes Holocaust, and it was like, oh fuck, that's it. Like, we could try, but this is the opus, really. Just call me an Eli Roth fanboy. I liked Green Inferno. You can like Eli Roth, dude. This is a safe place to like Eli Roth. I just always tease him. Actually, I like a lot of his movies, not all, but a lot. Okay, I have zero interest in Thanksgiving. I'm the same way. I don't like. No offense to anybody that's told me that I like it and it's really good stuff. I don't like the guy's films generally, so that's why I've kind of avoided it. The house with cock in its balls, yeah. Borderlands, that's right. That fucking Borderlands movie bombed. $100 million lost. LOL, I like Knock Knock and Death. Fucking Knock Knock, that's right. It was the remake of Death Game with Ana de Armas and the lady he ended up marrying. Lorenza Izzo, something like that. It wasn't terrible. Well, the dots it brings all the confidence in the world. Hard Eyes is going to be your favorite, LOL. Did you do Hard Eyes? No, I don't think so. Hard Eyes is going to be your favorite of all time. Who knows? I mean, I hated Valentine, so I don't know. I love My Bloody Valentine, and I don't mind the remake, so who knows? Thanksgiving is okay, but the tone is off. It has good kills but falls flat. It tries to be too serious when it should learn to be comedic elements. Way better slashers out there. Well, fuck. If Bradley says that, there's a few people I agree with more than fucking Bradley, so I don't know. But this has been fun. I had a great time doing this here tonight, paying homage to the living legend herself, Miss Edwige Fenech. If you have seen any of these three movies or all three of these movies, please, if you're catching the replay, comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are and ratings if you want. If you've seen her in other films and want to share your love for her, please do. It is Valentine's Day tomorrow, so share me some love for Edwige. Share me some love, because this was a fun week, man. This was a fun week, taking a look back at one of the all-time greats, in my opinion. Just a beautiful, beautiful woman. Seems like a great person inside and out. I really enjoyed some of the interviews I watched with her, learning more about her and her marriage and her rise to stardom and things like that. The fact that this was originally going to be her as the lead, but she was casted aside by a princess. Like, just shit that you'd think would come from fairy tales, but instead it was a real life, and one of the most beautiful women and I think legendary horror actresses and romantic comedy actresses that the world has ever known. Not just Italian, but all actresses. I think it's just a cool part of movie history. So I wanted to take this time tonight to tribute her and her career. So I say, as all of us, I would love you to join me in saying thank you, one Edwige Fenech, because she's an all-time legend. Hard Eye, Josh Rubin. You got that right, John. It was organic movement. But when you have Fulci, Martino, Argento, Diodato, Bava, and so on, completion always makes you better. Awesome show. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mateo. Good show, Grande. Thank you so much. Good stream, man. Stay frosty. Thank you so much. She's my all-time favorite, Valentine. Awesome stream. Good night, everyone. Hadfield Mascot, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for watching here tonight. This was a really fun show. Again, next week, we've got a battle. It's a versus. It is Japan versus Korea, as Battle Royale takes on the Squid Game. Yes, who will be left and what will there be left of them, whoever survives, next week only on the Graveyard. Too Sweet Peace. Good night, everybody, and cheers. Happy Valentine's Day to the voluptuous Edwige Fenech. Good night, everybody.